What are you looking at?
This is the best sports player of all time.
Who is he?
Let me tell you a story. A story about sports, Atari, the French, private equity, and a second grade teacher. I'm not a sports person. In general, I think sports can be entertaining, but the culture, especially American sports culture from my experience, places too much emphasis on monetizing you, the fans, be it through sports betting sites or spamming you with ads between every little action of the game. The most egregious example of this to me was baseball. I already had some influence from my family who despised the sport, and whenever I tried giving it a watch, I'd get bored to death because after every little thing, the game would slow to a halt with an ad. Surely there was a way to enjoy the game without all this delay. Luckily, there was an easy fix. Play the sport yourself, is what I would say if I wasn't as athletic as a sack of potatoes and just about as fast as one too. So let's just use the next best thing, sports video games. I also don't have that much experience with sports games. I've played my fair share of racing games, which is technically a sport, but my main experience with a sports ball game was FIFA 15 on the Xbox 360, which was alright, but it would get boring pretty quick. But what about baseball? Well, unlike soccer or American football, I didn't know baseball's rules, and most baseball video games are super involved using real players and all these rules and structures, so I just simply never touched them. But then one day, I got recommended this video about a little PC game called Backyard Baseball, and that changed everything. My name's Nosat, and let me tell you about the only good sports game franchise ever.
Do you need a power hitter on your team?
Does the job!
Do you need a power hitter on your team? Curve power hitter? How about a power hitter on your team? Do you need a guy that can hit power hitter on your team? Are you ready to power hit?
Backyard Baseball for the PlayStation 2. Big league action, backyard
Power hit.
rated E for everyone.
The story of Backyard Baseball begins in the early 90s with a company called Humongous Entertainment. That name may not ring a bell to most of you, but if you've ever heard of Pajama Sam, Freddy Fish, or Putt Putt, then you know them. Sometime around 1994, an illustrator at Humongous called Nick Mirkovich pitched the idea of a sports title to the co-founders of the company. The pitch sat until 1995, where due to a growing interest in real-life baseball among Humongous' team members, the green light was given to start development on Backyard Baseball. Their three design priorities were keep it semi-realistic, emphasis on semi, make it approachable for any audience, and shove in as much whimsy as Mr. Tingle in a Chuck E. Cheese. To fulfill these priorities, Richard Moe, a programmer at Humongous, said they twisted the KISS principle, keep it simple stupid, into the kiss ass principle, keep it simple and sophisticated stupid, and as someone who loves kissing ass, I approve. To maintain a kid-friendly approach, Humongous made it so every action was performed using only the mouse, added power-ups inspired by Mario Kart, and rather than proper baseball fields, though there are a few, they created maps with varying terrain types and sizes to really encapsulate the vibe of this is a bunch of neighborhood kids playing ball just about anywhere. Then, the last and most important element was the cast of characters the player could play with and against. Mark Pazer, a graphic designer at Humongous, said, I want tall kids, I want short kids, I want fat, I want thin, I want all of these different physicalities. I looked at each of the cast as a series of shapes, just trying to get diversity in every dimension I could. So kids from all over could see a character and say, hey, they look just like me, or hey, I know a kid in school just like this. And people say DEI is a modern invention. And with all these parts combined, Backyard Baseball hit store shelves on October 10th, 1997 to a modest success. But before I continue the story, I'm not going to talk about Backyard Baseball itself, but more importantly, its amazing cast.
It's opening day, the start of a brand new season, but we're ready. Oh, we are so ready. I personally made sure we are so ready. New glove broken in, baseball cap with a 27-degree bend broken in, and my lucky 27-degree gum. Bubble. I called everyone last night. Oh no, what if they're not broken in? No way. This is the Backyard Baseball Squad. We live for this. We broken in for this. We don't start for another 6 hours.
Backyard Baseball's gameplay is simple. You can either play a single game or an entire season of baseball, where you build your team using the various kids, and depending on the version, real-life professional baseball players as kids, and then you play ball. The actual gameplay of Backyard Baseball is very fun. Due to all the controls being relegated to the mouse, they're usually very intuitive. You do require at least the most basic knowledge of baseball's rules to play, but if you just watch someone play the game for a while before trying it yourself like I did, you should be fine. I'm also going to continue this overview assuming you know the rules to keep it concise. If you don't, I don't know, go read Wikipedia or something. Let's start with defense, aka pitching. When pitching, you can choose one of 5 different pitches, these being heat, slow ball, left and right hooks, and intentional walk. If you manage to strike someone out, you'll randomly gain 1 out of 9 possible pitching power-ups to use, which range from broken to useless. Going from least to most useful, first on our lists are the spitball and the crazy ball. Despite their different names, all they do is wiggle the ball a bit as it's coming towards the batter. Against the CPU, this is utterly useless because it doesn't see, but even against a real player, the ball shakes so little it doesn't change the player's action at all. Next are the elevator, zigzag, and corkscrew pitches respectively. Once again, these pitches rely on vision, meaning that against the CPU, the effectiveness isn't very high, but unlike the previous two, these pitches move the ball in wild directions, meaning the batting player has to practically guess where to click. Then we have the utterly broken trifecta of slow-mo, big freeze, and fireball. These pitches are so utterly broken both against CPUs and real players, it's hard to rank them. All 3 mess with the reaction timing by either speeding up, slowing down, or completely stopping the ball. As hilarious as they are to use on another player, these utterly suck to play against. They feel completely unfair. Lastly, in what I'd consider a separate category from the rest of the power-ups, is 110% juice. Instead of affecting the ball you throw, extra juice just gives your pitcher all their energy back with some extra. This is utterly broken, because not only could you keep your pitcher on full energy, giving them more accurate pitches, but at any time you can call a timeout, place a tired player on the pitcher position, use the power-up, then put the pitcher back, and now you have a completely refreshed batter for the next inning. Whenever I'm playing the game, I'm always hoping to get an extra juice in my back pocket. It's the most universal one. With the defense covered, we move on to offense. Unlike pitching, where you simply choose a pitch, when you're batting, you have to choose a bat strength, these being power, line drive, grounder, and bunt, and the batting stance, which affects the direction the ball goes. If you successfully hit one of the previously mentioned power-up pitches or perform a double play, you get 1 of 4 different batting power-ups, which we'll go through now. Different from the pitching power-ups, I think all the batting power-ups are useful, just some more than others. At the bottom of the usefulness scale is the undergrounder. Using it causes the ball to go underground for a few seconds before popping up in a random spot on the map. While the time where the ball is underground is useful, what often happens is the ball pops out near the fence, where the ball flies over it, marking a ground rule double. This can really kill any potential for a fast base runner to get a home run or even a triple. And if you're really unlucky, the ball is immediately caught when it reappears, meaning you don't even get said double. The next power-up, Screaming Line Drive, is like an even more extreme version of the undergrounder. Screaming Line Drive hits the ball in a straight line with maximum power, which in certain maps can mean a free home run due to the ball flying over, or sometimes through, the fence. However, this can also mean that the ball can get caught mid-air, which unlike the undergrounder, will be an instant out for the batter. Between the two, I prefer Screaming Line Drive, mostly because of the funny sound the ball makes. Then we have Crazy Bunt. Crazy Bunt causes the ball to run around the field laughing like a maniac before eventually dying off. If you have a fast base runner or multiple runners on base you need to clear out, this bat is perfect. And lastly, the best power-up by a wide margin, the Aluminum Power. Simple as, it's a guaranteed home run. The chances of you screwing up with it are so abysmally low, and the feeling you get when you hear that clang against the ball is just euphoric. It's also the only way the weak batters can score a home run so you can hear their theme songs. And speaking of batters, now we get into the characters, starting with the 2 NPCs in the game. The game is commentated by two characters, Vinny the Gooch, the wisecracking color commentator, and Sunny Day, a wannabe newscaster and the straight woman of the pair. Little known fact, Sunny Day was voice actress Jen Taylor's first role. Jen would go on to voice two little characters known as Cortana and Princess Peach. Now I want to see someone animate a little Cortana hologram narrating space baseball. That seems funny. All other characters in the game are playable in your baseball team, so let's make this a little fun. Every backyard baseball character, lightning round. Ahmed X-Men Khan. A rock music loving kid with a theme song inspired by Van Halen, he's an alright fielder but one of the best batters in the game. Amir Sticks Khan. Ahmed's little brother, Amir kinda gets outshined by him, but unlike Ahmed, Amir has pretty good pitching prowess. He also flubs the air guitar, which is pretty funny. Angela Sugar Pop Del Vecchio. My personal pick for the best pitcher in the game, Angela is nails on the mound, and every so often hits a nuke when up to bat. This comes at the cost of being one of the slowest runners and the worst fielder in the game, with a hidden coordination stat of 1. She also has a funny New York accent.
Bada bing, bada boom. Bye bye, beta.
Annie Flipper Frazier. The stereotypical hippie kid of the crew. She's a very middling player with exactly 1 point of stamina, apparently due to not enough protein in her diet. Probably a very dated way to say she's vegan. Ashley Little Smokey Weber. One of two tennis-playing twins, they're very solid ball players with great plate vision. But when put on the same team, they can rival some of the best batters in the game with a secret stat boost. Billie Jean Crazy Legs Blackwood. Despite the nickname, Billie Jean is one of the worst runners and in general worst players in the game. She's the tallest kid of the crew, meaning she would be decent on the field if it weren't for the fact she throws balls a shorter distance than my farts travel. She also wants to be a model or something. I don't really know what she's doing here. Dante Stretch Robinson. The food-loving kid of the crew, Dante will down an entire hot dog and yell,
Bring on the meat!
before batting. He's not a strong hitter, but what he does have is crazy speed and stamina, making him a great leadoff player to get a runner on base. He also apparently has a signature sandwich. Here's the recipe. Dmitry Paste Petrovich. The stereotypical nerd of the crew, Dmitry is a solid all-round player. Also, the wiki claims his dad was a Soviet rocket scientist. This is missing a citation, but in my heart it's canon. Ernie Funny Bone Steele. The jokester kid of the crew, Ernie is the kid who'll laugh at everything. As a ball player, Ernie is my go-to roster filler, jack of all trades and a master of none. Ernie also gets a stat boost when playing in his home, Steel Stadium. Gretchen Jabberjaw Hasselhoff. The kid with undiagnosed ADHD. Gretchen will talk too fast for most people to comprehend, except me, because I'm awesome. As a ball player, she's pretty whatever, but you're mostly picking her for her energy rather than her actual skill. Apparently one time she had so much candy she blacked out and woke up on top of a flagpole. I think she's the girl on the other end of You-Me gas station. Jocinda MVP Smith. The demon of Babylon disguises himself with the coat of the righteous. Okay, but for real though, Jocinda is one of the worst players in the game. She hits super weakly, she can't run, has whatever fielding, but worst of all, she doesn't really have an interesting archetype. She's just confident, which for someone with her stats feels completely out of place.
Jorge Bonkers Garcia. I forgot to record his name.
The rich kid, Jorge immediately gets my disrespect for being part of the 1%, which does not help the fact that he is likely the worst player in the game. He refuses to slide, a basic and essential maneuver, and when playing in a dirt field, his stats will plummet. I bet his dad paid him to be here, fucking dweeb. Kenny K-Man Kawaguchi. The social butterfly of the crew, and also the main disabled rep. Kenny is a good all-round player, though his bat is actually kinda inconsistent. He's also really into robots, saying he wants to turn his wheelchair into a mech. That would make for an interesting sequel, I guess. Keisha Flash Phillips. Like Ernie, Keisha is the neighborhood clown, but her form of comedy comes in doing impressions and referencing TV shows. Keisha is one of the most athletic players in the crew. She runs fast, hits hard, and has a great late-night TV-inspired theme song. Kimmy Twinkie Toes Ekman. The sugar-addicted kid, Ekman was actually the first character to be designed for backyard baseball, and she has a field named after her, that being Ekman Acres, which is her backyard. That's basically the 3 interesting things about her. According to her player card, the only reason she's here is because of how good her field is. Lisa Mad Dog Crockett. The introverted kid, Lisa's appearance and personality are heavily based on Daria from Beavis and Butthead, which usually leads to her being the most relatable character to me. She doesn't talk much, is sick of everyone and everything, and wants to play ball. As a player, Lisa is just very average in all categories. She's kinda like Ernie in that she's a decent slot filler. She also breaks the fourth wall sometimes, talking directly at you for sucking at the game. Luann Lulu Louie. The youngest kid in the crew, Lulu is always bringing her Teddy with her, including when batting and pitching. On the mound, Lulu is a killer pitcher. However, her low stamina means you can't really use any power-ups. At the plate, she's a worse version of Dante. She may run fast, but has little coordination. She's also a defensive liability due to her being the second shortest player. Maria Pinky Luna, the horse girl of the crew, also apparently inspired by Elmira from Tiny Toons. Maria Luna is usually a pretty bad player, being another player who can't keep her feet planted when batting and having possibly the worst batting stance ever. However, if your team colors are all pink, she gets such an insane stat boost, she rivals the best characters in the game. Marky Cootie Du Bois. Yes, it's pronounced like that. The country kid, Marky refuses to wear any kind of footwear, which likely explains why he's such a slow runner. Due to that, and a less than outstanding bat, I never really pick him for my teams, despite him being such a character. He does, however, get a stat boost when playing against the White or Red Sox, because he really despises footwear. He also dabs when catching a ball. Mikey Nugget Thomas. The always sick kid, Mikey is the slowest runner in the league. However, he makes up for this by having an absolute cannon of an arm, making him a great catcher and one of the best bats in the game. Pablo Secret Weapon Sanchez. The most famous backyard baseball character, Pablo is the undoubted best player in the league. The initial idea was for him to be secretly the best player, hence the name, but when it was decided to show some of the stats on the player cards, the secret was out. Pablo's only weakness is he's the shortest player in the league, even shorter than Lulu, meaning occasionally balls will fly over his head. Pete Wheelie Wheeler. My personal favorite character, Pete is the fastest runner in the league, making him my favorite leadoff player, and unlike other leadoff options like Dante, Pete, despite his bad plate vision, has the capability to hit nukes. Fun fact, his nickname, Wheelie, is used as slang by kids when heckling you. Reese Big Toe Worthington. The asthmatic kid. Reese is probably one of the kids with the worst nicknames and the worst ball game to boot. Due to said asthma, Reese has very little stamina for running, and his small size means he can't hit the ball very far. The only thing he has going for him is his small strike zone, which doesn't mean much with a half-decent pitcher. He looks really pissed when he strikes out though, and that's funny. Ricky Fella Johnson. The shy kid. Ricky, in all honesty, shouldn't be here. The game itself says in his profile that baseball is not his game. He's just here because he's a people pleaser, and I just feel bad for him. Ricky's game is soccer, so play that if you want to see his potential. Ronnie Spud Dobbs. The kid who thinks they're more mature than they really are. Ronnie is a strange player. He, like his sister who's coming up, is a very hit or miss player. Either you hit a home run, or you hit a super weak ball and get forced out. However, what his sister doesn't have is a super annoying voice and the urge to cry every 3 seconds. Can you tell I don't like him? Sally, the boss, no relation, Dobbs. The older, bossy kid. Sally, as previously mentioned, will either hit a nuke or strike out with rarely an in-between. Sydney Little Smokey Weber. The other half of the Weber twins. I don't exactly have much to add here. Apparently, Sydney and Ashley are based on a developer's wife and sister-in-law who share the same name. Stephanie Bubbles Morgan. The kid with undiagnosed autism whose special interest is baseball. Stephanie is a great fielder and probably the only player with half-appropriate game attire. Sadly, despite her extensive knowledge, Stephanie is quite frankly a mediocre bat. Her swing feels incredibly awkward, leading to a lot of missed swings. She doesn't run that fast, She's just kind of frustrating when it comes to offense. Tony Del Vecchio, Angela's older brother and the greaser kid of the crew. Tony's got quite the sharp tongue, but he's got the skills to back it up. He's got a cannon of an arm and, despite contact issues, can send the ball flying. Especially if he's playing against Angela, where they both get a stat boost. He's also my second personal favorite. Vicky Swan Kawaguchi, the ballerina kid. Vicky is nearly the same stat and playstyle-wise as Dante and should be used accordingly. She also has some of the best accuracy when it comes to fielding. Her theme, however, is probably one of the worst in the game. It is so boring. Overall, there are two words I'd use to summarize this roster. Cohesive but unbalanced. The entire roster feels like a realistic group of kids who share a neighborhood, and that aspect is reinforced by the balancing. You'll likely remember some kids in your school who were amazing at a given sport, and some who were just kind of forced to participate and weren't very good. I was the latter. With the characters covered, I'll now run through the fields and stadiums in the game. The default field in backyard baseball is the Parks Department Field number 2, a no-nonsense field which is usually a good pick for a home field in season play. The other proper baseball field is Playground Commons. It's about the same as the Parks field, but it has an extremely high fence covering the right field, meaning that left-handed batters have a harder time scoring home runs. We then have the two actual backyards, Steel Stadium and Ackman Acres. Each one is mostly regular, though both have a larger outfield, and in Steel Stadium's case, there's an indent right in the center making some home runs easier. Slowly getting wilder and wilder, next we have Dirt Yards, the first stadium on the list with a different surface. I couldn't find any proper documentation, but as far as I can tell, players run slower in general on dirt. I'm not the biggest fan of this field. The extremely short fence past all of left field makes home runs almost too easy, and the slower movement makes fielding really frustrating. The second city-themed field, Cement Gardens, is not much better. This field surface is concrete, meaning there's a higher chance of runners tripping and slides cannot be performed. This field has the same problems as Dirt Yards but on steroids, as it has an alley with absolutely no fence, but also two giant buildings making over half the field impossible to get a home run with, including all of right field. Man, I sure hope there isn't a field that's all giant buildings. Tin Can Alley is a field that's all giant buildings. In fact, the only opening is behind the catcher, meaning the only time the ball ever leaves the stadium is when it's out of play. Even worse, at the end of its tiny outfield are a series of containers where the ball can get stuck on, where the game will very inconsistently either call a ground rule double or just get fielders stuck, allowing free home runs. There is nothing good about this field. Why did they make this? Sandy Flats is just the worst Dirt Yards again. This time, we're at the beach, and sand makes players run even slower than dirt. You may also notice there are literally no fences, meaning you can get really easy home runs or ground rule doubles. The extreme slowdown from the sand just makes this one not very fun. Lastly are the two season play exclusives, Big City Stadium and Super Colossal Dome. They're really just dressed up versions of the stock field, though they have slightly larger outfields. That's pretty much it. A few extra things to note, there are technically 3 different versions of the original Backyard Baseball, those being the 1997, 2001, and 2003 versions. The 97 version uses 2D hand-drawn sprites for runners, while 01 and 03 use 2D renders of 3D models. While the original sprites look charming, in motion they don't really translate to the perspective the map is drawn in. Both of these issues are fixed with the 3D models, even though they have less animation frames. 01 and 03 also include real MLB players and teams, which is a mixed bag to me. I like the use of real teams, but basically all the pro kids in the game are utterly broken. They're also the most dated aspect, as these are pro players specifically from the early 2000s. The 03 version includes a few extra stadiums, but more importantly, it has a complete audio overhaul. All the in-game music is in HD, being just higher fidelity recordings of the same MIDI tracks. And the voice lines are...
My name's Pete Wheeler.
I'm Pete. Pete Wheeler. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Due to reasons we'll get to soon, all the characters starting in 2002 began to be redesigned, including getting new voices. Luckily, in this version of baseball, the redesigns weren't implemented yet, but you can tell just how off everything feels thanks to the new voices. Now, you might be wondering what happened. Well, this is where we pick our story back up.
Welcome to Nick's Pizza and Games, where the pizza dough rises and the high scores pizza.
Donnie! You're greener with
Pizza. What can I get ya?
You seen this
Power hitter.
I need a pack of my 27-degree gum before the game starts at 27 minutes
to game time! He was just here. Weber twins cleared him out.
Sauce. No!
I might have a pack for you, kid.
By 1995, even before Backyard Baseball's development, Humongous Entertainment was already the third largest children and educational PC game company in the world, and this caught the attention of a publishing company called GT Interactive. By 1996, GT bought out Humongous for the equivalent of almost $160 million today. Humongous still ran the same as usual for a few years, until 1999, when GT Interactive was bought out by a French holding company called Infogrames Inc. Soon after this, the corporate shenanigans began. Sometime in 2000, the original co-founders of Humongous, Ron Gilbert and Shelley Day, attempted to buy back Humongous from Infogrames. But on the day the purchase was to go through, the goddamn .com bubble burst, causing the co-founders' funding to go up in smoke. Soon after this, many original Humongous employees left with the founders to form Hullaby Entertainment, which didn't last past the 2000s after one of the co-founders was found guilty of bank fraud. And then in 2002, another 40% of Humongous' staff were laid off. Then sometime in 2003, Infogrames bought out Hasbro Interactive, and it, alongside GT Interactive, renamed themselves to... Oh no. Oh no, no, not them. Anything but that! That's right! It's me, Nosatari, the rival of Nosette! Who? That's right. Backyard Baseball was now at the hands of the famously well-managed company Atari, or rather, Infogrames and GT wearing Atari's rotten skin as a disguise. At this point, almost everyone who made the original run of Backyard sports games was gone, and that reflected in the slowly declining game quality. They slowly redesigned things more and more to desperately appeal to a market they did not understand until we got to this. I don't think I have the words to describe how utterly joyless I feel looking at this. By 2013, due to mismanagement, who would have thunk, Infogrames filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Humongous was disassembled, and its various franchises were sold off in auction. Surely, you might think to yourself, this is where things turn for the better, and a caring company buys the rights to the franchise. In the auction of its assets, all of Backyard Sports was bought by a private equity firm? No! Please, I'll even take Atari over there! That's right! It's me! Nosatariandnoseprivateequityette, rival of... No, dude, I'm already here, man. Shit, sorry. Come on, man. I was right in the middle of it, too. Will you two get the f*** out of my house? This right here is the lowest point a franchise can go. Bought by private equity and shoveled into a shitty mobile game.
Well, I guess I'll be early for tomorrow's game. I hear you, Billy. You know, I might have some of Kimmy's leftover candy from... Pete! You had the 27-degree the whole time!
At some point between 2013 and 2020, the private equity group who bought Backyard Sports just disappeared. Their website is now an HVAC repair site. And then, sometime between 2020 and 2022, A teacher named Lindsay Barnett, after allegedly hiring a private investigator, bought out the rights to all of Backyard Sports. She did so under the umbrella of her company and now the current owner of Backyard Sports, Playground Productions. On August 20th, 2024, a video appeared on what is now the official Backyard Sports channel, simply titled, "Backyard is Back." After almost 15 years of slumber, Backyard Sports was back, and it was reverted to its original 1997 to 2002 style. Over the course of 2024 and 25, the entire original run of Backyard Sports games were relisted on Steam. These games, outside of some mild editing due to licensing and logo updates, were exactly the same as the original, though according to Playground Productions, this is because none of the source code for any of these games are available, meaning that Mega Cat Studios, the company hired by Playground to re-release these games, had to ROM hack the games to make them playable on modern systems. And then, in early 2026, an animated short was posted. This short was really cute and it totally captured the charm and personality of the franchise, but what I really want to talk about is at the end of this short, where it was announced that a new Backyard Baseball game was going to be released this summer. I think it's fairly obvious that when I saw this news, I was hyped. This was like Avengers Endgame, but for people who have sex. I won't be delving into details or speculations about this new game, as it's not out at the time of writing and recording. But maybe this can be a future video if there's interest. You tell me in the comments. But I'm more than confident that this game is gonna be great.
Play ball!
So, where are we now? Well, as previously mentioned, classic Backyard Sports titles are available now on Steam, with some being $10 and a couple being free to play. There's official merch, including pins and a plushie made by Fangamer, and we have the new Backyard Baseball game coming July 9th this year. I don't think it's a stretch to say that the rise from the ashes this franchise has had is nothing short of miraculous. We're talking about a franchise who fell into the hands of Atari and a private equity group and not only lived, but has returned, likely even more popular than in its heyday. I really can only hope other franchises are as lucky, but that's about it from me. So, if you'll excuse me, I got a baseball game to coach. Mikey, put your shoulders up. Mikey! Pay attention, eye on the ball. Eye on the ball.
That was a ball.
Good take, Mikey, good take.
Third strike.
That's okay, Mikey. We're not bringing you home tonight, even though we carpooled. You can stay right the hell there.